Trump expert witness paid nearly $900,000 for testimony in the fraud case. Courtier's Eli Bartoff, professor at NYU, has worked about 650 hours on New York fraud case at a rate of $1,350 an hour as an expert witness. An accounting expert who came to Donald Trump's defense in his $250 million fraud racket has racked up nearly $900,000 in fees for his testimony in court heard on Friday. New York University Stern School of Business researcher Professor Eli Bartoff testified on Thursday that he found no evidence here of concealment in his review of the financial statements at the heart of the case. By the way, you think one of the other reasons, very possibly, that Trump was mad was because Bartoff said, I'm not testifying unless the check clears, unless you write me a check. You owe me for this expert testimony. I'm not going to go testify and then wait for the check to clear. You pay me now, or I'm not going up there. And that happened this morning. And he was like, he had to write it, and he had to put it in the bank and go, I don't know what that would say. This needs, when this check clears, I'll go, or you can wire the money to me directly. Let's see. Bartoff, in a deposition taken in July, he disclosed that he was being paid $1,350 an hour to work on the case. In court, he said he had now worked up about 650 hours on the case, which would total $877,500. According to ABC, the prosecution's sole expert witness, Michael McCarty, chairman and chief executive at the investment bank M.M. Dillon and Company, was paid about $350,000 for his testimony. That's the prosecution's thing. Questioned by lawyers from New York's Attorney General, Bartoff said the money had come from the Trump Organization and the former president's Political Action Committee, Save America. So congratulations, donors. You're paying that guy's bills. Trump, his older sons, and executives at the company are charged with exaggerating the value. We know this. After Bartoff's testimony on Thursday, Trump told reporters he found absolutely no fraud, accounting fraud of any kind. This is a highly respected man. I don't know him, but he's an expert witness. Trump will testify for the second time on Monday. Bartoff will return to the stand on Tuesday. There he is. Alternative gap definitions of value, fair value. But this is what this guy's saying. That's supposedly Bartoff right there. And that's their executive. That's fun. That's good stuff. Okay, so then last little bit. We're not going to do all of this one either because I'm going to bug off and rejoin the fam for some fun. But this is Matthew Whitaker, who was the former acting attorney general under Trump, when he was purging everybody from the government and filling these roles, these spots with sycophants in his final days in office. He's one of the guys he put in there, and I guess he's talking about the Hunter Biden indictment. And I just like the quote on this. Matt Whitaker, this is worse than it appears. If that doesn't sum up where these guys are, I don't know what does.
All right, we begin with a Fox News alert. The president's son, Hunter Biden, has been indicted. This happened late last night.
Obviously, the weaponization of the DOJ and Joe Biden is puppeting the DOJ and making them attack his own son.
9 tax-related charges. 3 of them are felonies brought by special counsel David Weiss. Yesterday, this came through. Meanwhile, Weiss, quote, said this: the defendant spent his money on drugs, escorts and girlfriends, luxury hotels, rental properties, exotic cars, clothing, and other items of personal nature. In short, everything but his taxes. Hunter's accused of avoiding paying $1.4 million in taxes over a 4-year period. Here's what...
Weird. It's almost like it's 0.5% of the taxes Trump avoided paying.
Speaker Newt Gingrich had to say last night.
Oh, Newt Gingrich. I know him. Wasn't he the guy... the devout Catholic who's only been married once and never would think of giving his wife divorce papers, making her sign them after she was coming out of cancer surgery? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
I think at a practical level, when you look at all the information, what you have is essentially what...
By the way, this is also the guy that brought you Whitewater.
In a recent newsletter, the Delaware Sopranos.
The Delaware Sopranos. That's great. That's, yeah. While you're at it, why don't you give me the Toledo Scarface while you're at it?
A crime family. They were willing to sell out the interest of the United States.
What would that interest be? What name me one policy change?
As somebody said the other day, you now have in effect a Chinese Russian paid agent sitting in the Oval Office.
Yeah, somebody stupid. Yeah.
Hunter faces up to 17 years in prison on those charges. And guys, remember, for the longest time, we heard the IRS whistleblower say, we wanted to bring this in California, and David Weiss said no. We wanted to bring it in D.C. David Weiss said no, and then they asked David Weiss, like, no, I don't think that really happened. Now he gets a special prosecutor status, and it seems like it happened.
Yes, when he's given the ability to direct where the case goes, as opposed to it being directed by whoever wants to charge it, it happens in California. Like, again,
I get
clearly Joe Biden is forcing this.
it's not over, but in the big picture, Abbe Lowell has fired back his attorney, an attorney somebody else is paying. Evidently, he is broke. He does not have a job. And then they're going to paint it as it's a Hunter problem, not a Joe problem. But as we analyze this.
Well, no, it's actually the job of someone who would be prosecuting this or presenting what you believe is you have to prove it's a Joe problem, not a Hunter problem. That would be, in our system of jurisprudence, that would be important.
This is very much a Joe problem.
Oh, yeah, it is. And I think they're
Totally.
building the case of connection with Joe Biden just because they said, look, he's struggling with alcohol, drugs, and all of this. But they also said he was a great businessman, and that's in the indictment.
Smartest man Joe knew.
Exactly. Matt Whitaker is the former acting attorney general.
Well, I got to say that if you can be that successful in business while you're on crack, it's impressive. I mean, you have to understand, these are all people who had Mike Pillow on the regular.
Is now this morning. So, Matt, I'm reading the indictment. If you go to page 34, it goes through all of his business expenses. But they really aren't business expenses. This is him paying the prostitutes and all of this.
Yeah, the prostitutes.
But
they were adorable. By the way, in case you don't know, a prostitute is like a prostitute, but they're much shorter.
Something different in this indictment. They go through his book and his memoir, and this is what he said in his memoir. The thieves, junkies, petty dealers, over-the-hill strippers, con artists, and assorted hanger-ons, who then invited their friends and associates in most recent hookups. They latched onto me and didn't go, all with my approval. I never slept. There was no clock. Day bled into night, and night into day.
Right, yeah, it sounds like a story of addiction. Sounds like a good read, actually. I got to say, that's some rock-solid prose.
Things by Hunter Biden via the court. So he's talking about
his addiction. Yeah, we're aware.
Addiction in the book while still saying he was a businessman.
He was.
He has all these accounts that he's charged for all of these things, claiming them to be business expenses, and the court is saying, the prosecution saying, that's not true. He was living a lavish lifestyle. He said it in his book. He has contempt for the court.
By the way, he's already been paid. He's being charged with paying them too late.
Yeah, and it's good to be with you all.
It is.
You know, if you read through this indictment, I think David Weiss tries to cover himself, because remember, Weiss is the same person that tried to, give him a deferred agreement on the gun and do a misdemeanor tax charge. And this is at least 6 felonies. You have tax evasion, you have filing false tax returns, and you have a failure to file. And remember, the thing, Lawrence, that is so frustrating about this is the 2 most prosperous years for Hunter Biden, 2014 and 2015, were allowed to expire under the statute of limitations. Yep. And so, this to me really seems...
Well, again, Trump is literally claiming that 90% of his case is, he's free of it because of the statute of limitations. You can't have it both ways.
David Weiss has found religion to some extent and decided to just hammer him with charges, but these are the appropriate charges because these tax years, Hunter was just willing to spend all his money, not pay anything in taxes, and not even file a tax return up until 2020, when his friend in California decided, well, your dad's running for president, so we better get all these taxes cleaned up, and you better pay these taxes. I mean, it's the story couldn't be worse for Hunter, but the way he...
Well, sure it could. He could have just not paid him through 2020, not had any friends that would help him like that, not having any relationships that would salvage him during that time. He could have died of a drug overdose. He could be another fentanyl death. It could go a lot worse.
It also can't just be explained away as something to do with his addiction. This is someone that just chose not to pay his taxes, and when he finally
Yeah, addicts are always pretty good about that.
did file tax returns, he filed false tax returns with all those expenses you described.
Matt, what does this mean for the president, and what do you think
Nothing.
happened to Hunter Biden going forward? Because he could spend 17 years behind bars.
Yeah, I think it's there's two sides of this coin for the president. Obviously, his son has done some very bad things with the influence peddling, not paying his taxes. But ultimately, what's happening in the House is the more interesting thing with this same money is how much of it ended up in Joe Biden's pocket, how much of it ended up in other family
I don't know. I think accusing Joe Biden of stripping is a bridge too far.
pockets. And, I think if you go back to the one message that Hunter Biden sent to his own
Really, the WhatsApp? You mean the one in 2017?
daughter, where he said,
Oh, right. No, he's talking about the one who giving dad half my money or whatever.
had to give 50% of his money to his father, Joe Biden. I think that's a very interesting issue that ultimately Jim Comer and others in the House are going to have to get to the bottom of.
Yeah, they're already at the bottom of it. Basically, this was the period where they were holding his money because he was snorting it all. That's the period they're talking about.
That's just what Eric Holder had to say. He was Attorney General under President Obama. Yeah. He was his wingman. He said this he said, I asked the Republicans and Democrats, would you have brought these charges against Hunter? And he said this. In fact, let's listen.
I've spoken to former colleagues, both Republican and Democrat, who were United States attorneys, and I asked them, you had these facts in your office, would you have brought this case? And the answer to a person was no. This is not a case that we would have brought, that there would have been some kind of resolution along the lines that was suggested in the possible plea agreement.
Right, that happens all the time. That's absolutely true. I mean, look at Trump's taxes.
Department, by and large, and there have been exceptions, is really an institution that is anti-political, that is politically neutral, that really just follows the facts and the law and makes determinations on that basis.
He was never neutral.
Unbelievable.
He was never neutral.
They're so mad. Anyways, I got to let you guys go because I'm going to try to spend the rest of the night with the fam and that kind of stuff. I'll see you guys. Oh, God, sorry about that. I didn't mean to drop Roseanne into your lap. That was just rude. Thank you, guys. By the way, take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the radio program. Hopefully the tech will work out tomorrow. Boy, that's the big dice roll, isn't it? Wish me luck, and thank you guys so much. Don't forget to hit that like on your way out or on your way in next time, or if you're watching this later and you're like, hey, that really helps. It really, really does. And also subscribe. Somewhere, they always tell you that like 70% of the people that watch your show aren't subscribed. I think it's 118%. So I've done the math. I hired an expert from New York to come in and do that for me, and these are numbers he's never even seen before, because he doesn't do numbers. Anyways. Have a great night, and I'm off to Disneyland.